Hey, this is The Fighter. I'm here now with Bjorn Rebney, one of the founders of Bellator Fighting. Bjorn, thanks for being here as always.
Thanks for having me.
So we just watched Bellator 11 here in Uncasville, Connecticut. What are your thoughts on the show so far tonight?
I loved it. It was a great show. I mean, it had another kind of YouTube moment with a flying knee. There was a spectacular knockout. Lyman Good had a dominating performance against Omar De La Cruz. We had some breakout performances of guys that we haven't seen fight for Bellator before. It was a fun show as a fan. It was a fun show to be the CEO of this company.
Do you have any YouTube highlights from tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think the flying knee, that it was Nick with the flying knee, I think that is definitely going to be a YouTube moment. I know my guys are in the truck right now editing it, but that was pretty spectacular looking. We've been freak lucky in terms of those kind of moments. I mean, between Toby and Yahir and then the Carrie's woman's fight, and we just keep knocking them out. You know, at first I thought it was freak luck, and now I kind of think, well, maybe it's just that guys are hugely motivated to move on in the tournament or to get a shot, and maybe they're trying things that otherwise they wouldn't try, but we've just, knock on wood, we've had some magical moments, so hopefully they'll keep coming. I think Matt Stanzel is incredibly gifted at what he does. For a guy to be able to put together back-to-back shows now, 10, 11 weeks straight, and to have them consistently perform at the level they've performed at, and he's not, I mean, there isn't an enormous amount of matchmaking in the tournament, but there was setup. But as we get deeper into the tournament, Matt's making 6, 7, 8 fights a show. And the fights are spectacular. So
we're still, of course, one fight away from the end of the first season of Bellator. What can you say so far has been the defining moment of Bellator?
I think from a branding perspective, the defining moments were Toby Amada's freak of nature submission, on Jorge Masvidal. Yahir Reza's spinning back fist, which both to the pure MMA fan and to the general market fan was just magical. The Esteban Payan knockout. Those obviously jump off the page at you. Moments from my personal perspective, seeing a guy like Lyman Good, who I met 3 months ago, who nobody knew who he was. He had no Q score. He really was an unknown fighter, but for a small contingent, a niche group in the Northeast. And now to know that we're getting blogs and people logging in, people coming to our site, people talking to us from California to Minnesota, New Mexico and on, talking about Lyman Good, that's very cool. It's very cool to know that we've kind of crisscrossed the nation. It's very cool that the 3,000 to 4,000 people who come to our site every week are looking at these fighters and going, wow, he's an A-level guy. I want to see him. I want to learn more about him. And people start to talk. When people start to talk about Lyman Good versus this guy or that guy and start to mention top guys in the UFC at 70 or start to mention top fighters from Japan at 70, very cool. Very cool for us. I don't think that's a defining moment, but it's a real good growth curve moment. What I preach about fighters controlling their own destiny, they can do it, and they can do it here. So that is very cool for me for a personal defining moment about what we've done. Our show is going on ESPN Deportes to a Spanish language audience. Spanish language audience, until Bellator hit on Deportes, had never had a show produced for a Spanish language audience in real time that had Spanish language announcers. It was being broadcast week to week. So we're hitting real virgin territory. If we're able to do numbers that are better than, in many instances, the top dogs in the game, and comparable to hitting an audience that knows nothing about this great game, I think that we're poised to do some really great numbers when we change over to English language. And I think that going into the second season, we will do consistently stronger numbers in Spanish language because the fan base will know it. I mean, you can't believe how many people came to us in terms of Spanish language media saying, explain this to us. Is it real? Are those real fights? There was a complete lack of understanding of this great game. So it's strong, and I look at it from that perspective. I'd love it to be, north of ones, but it'll get there.
Speaking of Season 2, can you give us some details on what's going to happen for Season 2, when we might see it come out, and will we be getting Bellator on ESPN, mainstream ESPN?
Sure. What you'll see is much of the same. You'll see Challenger Series, 8 guys fighting to become the number 1 challenger, to challenge Lyman Good, to challenge Joe Soto, to challenge Eddie Alvarez or Toby Amada, and to challenge Hector Lombard or Jared Hess. You'll see guys fight for the right to fight for our championship. So we're not going to change the format. We didn't do the format and say, oh, this is a great tournament, and then we're going to switch it on its head and go to an old-school matchmaking formula. It's not going to happen. Bellator's second season will kick off in the fall. And what I can say is that you will see Bellator on both English language and Spanish language. That's as much specificity as I can give.
And do you have any desire to go into pay-per-view, or are you happy right now with TV?
Happy right now on TV, but obviously the dynamics in this business require that you get to pay-per-view. So my hope and the vision was you've got 4 tournaments running simultaneously. who knows if at the end of that, all 4 of those guys are going to become A-level guys. I think we have some guys right now with the it factor. I think the guy you saw win a title here tonight has the it factor. You look for all of those different parts of the ingredients. He can fight inside the cage. He's got great talent, amazing drive. He looks like he belongs on the cover of GQ. You know, he could be the evil or the good character in a Conan the Barbarian movie. He's got all those kind of unique factors working together. And you want to take a person like a Lyman, and he keeps working the way he's working, and create somebody that can fight him that becomes the A- or B+ to his A, and then you've got the ability to conceivably move on to pay-per-view.
So did you go so far as to say that Lyman Good is the poster boy of Bellator right now, or is there something else you think that you could use to help push the company forward?
I think Lyman has done an amazing job. And like I said, he's got an awful lot of pieces to the equation. We took him to what was called a car wash at ESPN, where he went through literally about 9 or 10 interviews in one day.
I would die during that. I can't even lie about that.
You and I both. He was the consummate professional. Started at 6 o'clock, got done at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But there are a lot of other. We've been very lucky. Eddie Alvarez, who's fighting for our lightweight title, is another guy who generates a huge amount of buzz wherever he goes. He's got an electrifying personality and a beautiful wife and great kids. And Jared Hess, who's fighting Hector Lombard, is this magical kind of down-home Americana, Oklahoma boy who's a world-class wrestler and strong as an ox, and mom travels with him, and mom loves him, and dad. I mean, there are a lot of guys in this organization that could conceivably elevate themselves to the next level. Joe Soto, who fought last week, who's soft-spoken and as kind as can be and walks up and is just like the most pleasant, understated guy. We got a lot of guys who've really stepped out of the box. And it's, Wilson Hayes, who Joe Soto beat, has got this gregarious kind of over-the-top personality with huge, big smiles, and he loses, and all he wants to do is give the guy that just beat him a hug. And, he's just... You got a lot of guys who we can get traction with. So I wouldn't want to classify anybody as the poster boy, but if there was going to be, we could do a heck of a lot worse than Lyman Good as the face of this organization. He is a very high-quality individual outside the cage and a very, very talented fighter inside.
Okay, last question, then you're off to go to bed, I imagine.
Sure.
So we're 11 shows in. Can you tell us what your favorite fight has been so far of these 11 shows at Bellator?
My favorite fight so far? My favorite fight, just as a pure fan and just for wacky personal reasons, we had a fighter who we were initially going to invite to participate in the tournament by the name of Diego Garijo. And Diego Garijo came to the first fight in Florida, and the commission wouldn't let him fight because they felt he was wildly mismatched because he didn't have enough wins. And then he came to another fight a couple weeks later because we wanted to get Diego a fight. We felt very bad that he felt he was going to be in the tournament, and his opponent fell out 3 hours before the fight. And then he came to one more fight in Dayton, Ohio, and his opponent also fell out. And it became this running joke, and he's the nicest, coolest guy you'd ever want to meet. And Diego Carrillo got a chance in Ontario to finally fight for us after 2.5 months, thinking he was going to be in our tournament, training for the tournament, finally got his shot, was losing the fight. I don't know if you've seen it on YouTube, but check it out. We put it up on YouTube. He's losing the fight, and he's bleeding out of 3 different holes in his head, blood everywhere. He's taken a horrible beating in stand-up. He gets knocked off his feet 3 times, and he comes back, and the crowd electrifies, gets off their feet, starts screaming, deafening roar in Ontario, and submits his opponent. And he stops. Brandon Vera's standing in his corner, and they're screaming at each other, and there's blood all over his face, and he's just electrified. And it was one of those moments you go, wow. If after all of that disappointment, if Diego Garijo had lost and had been cut and bloodied and bruised, I would have been just crushed. And man, he pulled off a victory that is just magical. And it was cool. It was great to see. Emotionally, it was cool to see. And as a fight, it was one of those ebb and flow, and the underdog comes back and beats the guy, and it was very cool. That's my favorite fight so far.
All right, Bjorn, thank you very much. You can check out Bellator and ESPN Deportes.
You can go to our site. You can go to Bellator.com and check out all of our fights. You can check out all of our fights in English language on Wednesday mornings on Bellator.com. And, of course, just go to YouTube and type in Bellator.
If you haven't seen that upside-down triangle, you better check it out. Bjorn, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, man.
This video is sponsored by Hoodlum Fight Gear. Check out their gear and apparel for men and women at hoodlumfightgear.com.